Hi, I'm Pat Keon, a senior research analyst with Thomson Reuters Lipper, and I'm here to speak to you about the fund flows activity for the week ended Wednesday, May 16th. We'll start this week's report by taking a quick look at the market activity for the week. Both the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the S&P 500 Index finished up 0.9% for the week. Each index benefited from a few different sources. There was rallies in the technology and healthcare sectors, a decrease in volatility, and we also saw softer inflation data, which eased some current interest rate concerns that are going on. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rode this news to 8 straight winning sessions before closing down on Tuesday the 15th. The 8 straight sessions closing up was the longest streak since last September when the Dow closed up for 9 straight sessions. Let's turn our attention back now to the fund flows activity. We'll start by taking a look at our macro groups for the week. Equity mutual funds saw net inflows of $887 million. Taxable bond funds took in $473 million. Muni bond funds saw net inflows of $318 million. And money market funds, big winner here this week, took in $13.6 billion in net new money. We'll move on now, take a closer look at each one of the macro groups, starting off with our equity fund group. As we said before, equity mutual funds up $887 million on the week. In a little bit of a diversion from the trend, we actually saw domestic equity funds take in net new money this week. Just $104 million, but it's better than seeing money leave. And on the other side, non-domestic equity funds continued their winning ways with net inflows of $784 million. Taking a little more granular look at each of the regions, we see the largest inflows belonging to international multi-cap core funds. And on the U.S. side of things, multi-cap core funds, the international multi-cap core saw net inflows of just over $400 million, while the U.S. multi-cap core took in just over $600 million in net new money. We'll move on now, take a look at our equity ETF group. Big inflows here this week for this group. Took in $9.2 billion in net new money. It was their 6th straight week of inflows. The big players here this week were Spider, S&P 500, net inflows of $5.1 billion. The iShares Edge MSCI USA Momentum ETF, net inflow of just over $500 million. And on the flip side of things, we see the Energy Select Sector Spider with net outflows of just a little bit shy of $300 million. Let's move on to our taxable bond fund groups now, starting with mutual funds. Net inflows here again last week as well. $473 million in net new money came in. The major peer groups were the Loan Participation Fund peer group, took in almost $520 million, and then the Core Bond Fund peer group had net inflows of $371 million. We'll move on now, take a look at taxable bond ETFs. Net inflows for this group as well. It was a 3rd straight week of net inflows as it took in $2.2 billion in net new money. On the plus side was the iShares iBox investment grade corporate bond ETF product with about $600 million in net inflows. And this was followed by the iShares JP Morgan US dollar emerging market bond ETF that had just over $300 million in net inflows. And on the sell side of things was the iShares 20-plus year Treasury product, which saw net outflows of roughly $230 million. We'll move on now to our Muni Bond Fund group. This group had net inflows as well last week. They took in about $320 million in net new money, all of it being attributable to our National Muni Bond Fund peer groups. Specifically, the High Yield Muni Debt Fund peer group had net inflows of just over $400 million. Our last group to take a look at is money market funds. As mentioned previously, large inflows here this week. They took in almost $14 billion in net new money. Big players were the institutional U.S. government money market fund peer group and the U.S. government money market fund peer group, which had net inflows of $10.1 billion and $2.1 billion respectively. Well, that wraps up this week's report. If you'd like to take a closer look at for the data yourself, please go to our website. It's www.lipperusfundflows.com. And please join us here again next week where another one of our analysts will be speaking about that week's fund flows activity.